Hey guys, welcome back. And of course, I want to say thank you all very much for your support. And if you're new to the channel, thank you for joining. And in this video, it's going to be an interesting topic that I've been seeing coming around on the forums and on other YouTube channels as well that I've been discussing it, is whether or not the Nintendo Switch is being rushed to the market by Nintendo. Now, before we go further, I want to make it clear that in this video, we're going to be going over reasons why it could be rushed to the market, but also we're going to be talking about reasons why possibly it's not being rushed to the market. So we're going to go over both sides of the equation as to reasons why certain things are happening and why it could be considered as rushed and why it also might just be part of the way Nintendo's doing their business. So we will discuss both sides of the aspect, and then of course we can discuss it further in the comment section. So in regards to the Switch being rushed to the market, there's a few things that have been going on with Nintendo the last few months, or basically since they revealed the Switch. There are a few things that have been going on that have been catching people's attention, and my attention as well, that have led some to think that the system is being rushed very fast to the market. So first of all, the Switch was revealed October 20th, we all know that. And of course, Nintendo first announced this system as the Nintendo NX in March of 2015. And then throughout that year, we had no information about the NX. And then in 2016, we still had no information about the NX really, besides 1,000 million trillion different rumors. And they finally revealed the NX as the Nintendo Switch on October 20th in that 3-minute reveal trailer. And after that reveal trailer, Nintendo had that big list of third-party partners that were supposedly making games for the Nintendo Switch, or going to be partners that could be making games for the system in the future. And it was a big list. We saw all the companies there, basically EA, Activision, Ubisoft, Square Enix. All the big players were there, of course. So as time went on, from October to January, basically early January, we really didn't have much announcements from those third parties about any games coming to the system. So many people speculated, myself included, that we'll be getting the majority of those games announced on January 12th, when Nintendo had their big presentation reveal of the Nintendo Switch on that day. So January 12th came and went, and on that presentation day, we didn't really get much from third parties. We got a couple games here and there from the big third parties. Activision has Skylanders, EA has FIFA, Ubisoft has Just Dance and a port of Rayman Legends, Capcom had Street Fighter 2, and of course Square Enix had their support with Dragon Quest and Octopath Traveler. And of course the myriads upon myriads of indie games coming to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, there's literally seemingly no end to the amount of indie games coming to the Switch, which is great. A lot of those games look really cool. But then we have the release date of the Switch being March 3rd, which was less than 2 months from January 12th from that presentation. And there's still a lot of missing information from that time period, January 12th to March 3rd, that we're heading towards. We still have a lot of missing information, but the system is being released in 3 weeks. We've had some confusing statements from Nintendo. We've had Shigeru Miyamoto say that games developed for PC would take a year or less to port to the Nintendo Switch. We've also seen indie developers say that, hey, they got their game running on the Switch in less than a week. So we've heard all kinds of different information about the Switch, but there's still a lot of information missing, like how the online's going to work, like how the eShop's going to work, how it's going to look, what kind of rewards, if any, you're going to get, what kind of achievements you're going to get when you play online, how the virtual console's going to look, if there's even going to be one on launch day. Plus, on top of that, Nintendo has come out and said that a lot of these apps that come standard with all these devices, including the Wii U, are not going to be available on day one on the Nintendo Switch. The Wii U had a web browser, it had Netflix, it had YouTube, you know, basically where you could see it from the web browser, but the Nintendo Switch will not have any apps basically at all on the system when you buy the system. So that makes it sound like the system is being rushed a little bit to the market, possibly because Zelda is ready to go and Nintendo wants to make money on the game, and the game is so very highly anticipated that everyone wants to play it as soon as possible, and they're going to put their money down on it no matter what. So Nintendo may realize this, and they may be releasing the Switch even earlier than possibly what it's even ready. Even though they did announce March 2017 a year ago, back in April, I think, of 2016, about a year ago, they said that the NX was going to release in March 2017. But it looks like the system may have needed a little bit more time to get everything ready on it, you know, have everything ready to go on the system, all the operating system stuff, all the apps, everything like that, because Nintendo did leave it open to the possibility that we will be getting those apps in the future. So no web browser, no YouTube app, no Netflix app, None of that stuff at launch, but they did say possibly later down the line we could have that. Also, Kimishima said as well that the Nintendo Switch will not have Wii U controller support basically for past controllers at launch either, but could be added later in a future update. So in my opinion, that all could have been added on day one, because they're already mentioning updates in the future that they could be adding features that will not be available on day one. Adding to that, despite developers already saying that some of their games are not coming to the Switch, we've also heard developers say that they need more information from Nintendo, like the developers of Rocket League, for example. They're still waiting on Nintendo for something, they said. So we know certain games are not ready yet to be on the Switch, or even to be announced for the Switch yet officially. So what that kind of shows is either a lack of support to these developers, and maybe they're asking for dev kits or not getting them, or Nintendo is late in getting them dev kits in the first place, so they're still waiting to get more information, getting more support from Nintendo so they can put their games onto the Switch, and it's going to take more time to do so. Because we know that developers cannot announce their games really for the Switch unless they have all the things they need to start getting their game ported to the system. They can't just blindly promise something without doing their test and figuring out what works and what doesn't work on the system, because maybe certain things won't work and they won't be able to bring their game to the system. So that kind of stuff though should have been done in 2016, and given these developers, had them sign an NDA and get them all ready to go so they could have their games ready to be announced for the system, even if they're coming out at a later date, which could further support the theory that the Switch is being rushed to the market a little bit. So how about the other side of the equation? What if from Nintendo's point of view the system is not rushed at all, and they actually had this plan since the beginning that they were going to be focusing just on a few core games at the launch of the system in March 3rd, without having all these apps to worry about on the system? Just get the system out there, get all the games on the system, make sure everything's running smoothly for the games to give the consumer the most smooth experience possible on those games without having a bunch of patches, without having to add a bunch of stuff later, without having complaints about performance. Making sure all these games ran just perfectly on the Switch so they wouldn't have to worry about these other things later. So personally, I would rather a company do that and not focus so much on the operating system of a console, making sure it has all the apps there, making sure all those apps run perfectly if the games are going to suffer. Granted, you would like to have all that stuff, but if you want to pick one, obviously you're going to go with the games and making sure that all the games run smoothly on the system, make sure everything's ready to go at launch. Then of course you have the Zelda equation that comes into the picture. Nintendo may see Zelda as being the biggest release they have had in the past 4 to 5 years, right? I don't think any Wii U game has been as big, as hyped as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So Nintendo may see this as an opportunity. The game is ready to go possibly, and they have everything in line. March they feel is a good time to launch the game. Everyone's been expecting Zelda since 2015 when they first announced that initial release date. So delaying it even further, of course beyond March, would be really painful for fans. So Nintendo may have seen that as a catalyst to get the Switch out on March 3rd, regardless of extra apps, regardless of extra things on the system, to make sure that the fans were satisfied with Zelda on day one on launch. So taking all that into consideration, that could have been Nintendo's plan from the start, was to have Zelda be their primary focus and have these other games be a support to it, including these indie games, and possibly add these other services down the line, because obviously they would have more time to do so with Zelda being such a huge focus in the first month of the system. Quite possibly it wouldn't matter so much if these other services like the Virtual Console, an internet browser, apps like Netflix and YouTube, Amazon and things like that be available possibly in April or May. It's not that big of a deal to Nintendo if they're satisfying everyone who wants to Switch on day one with Zelda. That also gives them time to get more games ready for E3 if they're going to have a big E3 presentation, and it gives third parties more time to get their games ready for E3 as well, which of course we hope they are going to be supporting the Switch at E3 and showing a lot more games for the system. So it's definitely an interesting topic. I've seen it go both ways. Was everything that Nintendo has been doing since the Switch was revealed what Nintendo has planned all along? Or is Nintendo kind of getting the system out there as soon as possible because they need to make money as soon as possible as well? You gotta take that into consideration, because the Wii U basically is dead, of course, and Nintendo's home console business is not making them any money. Nintendo may not have any choice but to release a Switch in March, even though quite possibly they could have had an even more robust lineup later on in 2017 if they waited a few more months and had a lot more games at launch, had the online service working fully, had the Virtual Console working fully, having all the apps there, all that kind of stuff. No doubt you have to admit that the Switch would have benefited possibly from that extra time, but of course Nintendo and of course the fans, us, we don't want to wait any longer for it. So I'm sure for Nintendo fans, they're very excited that March 3rd is just around the corner and the Switch is going to be released with Zelda and a few other games that look fun too, like Bomberman. But obviously Zelda is the big push for this system at launch. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you think Nintendo has planned the Switch launch just perfectly? Do you think there's things they could do better? Do you think they're rushing the Switch to the market? Do you think that everything they're doing is just fine the way it is? Let me know what you think. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Take care.